Today, it's an early day, and I get started off earlier than normal because the main activities are starting at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., the Brujo Glacier. And yes, I finally got Cheryl up at around 6:30 so we can go out to the bow and see the activities. But first, what else is happening around the ship? Today is actually a scenic cruising day that we'll be seeing the Brujo Glacier. But that's only going to be an hour. So all day long, there's more activities scheduled. So you'll see some of those as we go to them. The main activities are between 7 and 8. This is a quick background of where we've been, how far we've traveled, and what we're going to see today. Today our journey is going to take us to El Brujo Glacier. This is at the very tip of South America. Where that we started off at was San Antonio, way up here at the red dot. And where we're going to be at today is El Brujo Glacier, way down here. So as we zoom in, the satellites get a little choppy there because it's not well documented. But our goal was to get to either the Ushuaia Glacier here or Brujo Glacier here. This one was packed with ice, so we were unable to go there, but the captain knew that in advance, so he had all of his paperwork updated to take us to this Brujo Glacier. As you can see, we went through these fjords with our ship to get back in to see the glacier. And if you look, there are some narrow passageways that he had to go through. Even the passageway going into the glacier was tight. If we zoom way down on the glacier, the opening he had to go through here is about 2,000 feet. Well, our boat is 3,000 feet long, so we couldn't turn around in this area. So what he did was brought the ship in to a little bit wider area in this general area and turned around so that the entire ship, the balconies on either side could see. Of course, we were out on deck. We weren't staying below in a room to look at anything. We were up in the freezing cold watching the glacier. One other thing to note about this glacier is if you look around, this is a seismic area. This was all created by the tectonic plates pushing against each other. And as you zoom in, you can see this is the Ushuaia Glacier, and right below it is a volcano. So, not sure if this volcano is still active. It may be extinct, but there's volcanic activity all in the area. Sailing through the fjords was kind of eerie. All you could see was the peaks of sun melting shining between the clouds. But looking in the water, you could start to spot some sea ice floating around as the white specks. But everything is covered in clouds and mist. To give you a time frame, when I took this video, we were entering the glacier area at about 5 a.m. That's when we started seeing the first pieces of ice. Of course, as time went on, the ice was getting thicker. And as you can see by the next video, it's about 6 o'clock and the ice is pretty thick. I'm waiting to see the glacier any minute now. So time to go get Cheryl and make sure she's ready to go up front. There, we bundled up with, of course, a couple hundred other people and got at the bow of the ship to get the best views. But the closer we got to the glacier, the more ice in the water. And as we sit just outside of the mouth of the glacier, we could start to see other things, like sea otters. Of course, they're a little bit harder to get on video than you would expect. As soon as they're up, they take a quick peek and down they go, not to be seen for a while longer. But the ship is narrating our tour into the glacier.
You get closer, you can see from anywhere you leave be on the ship at this time. A much closer look at the glacial striation I was mentioning earlier. Those scratches on the rock. If you start looking quite closely, the vegetation that's...
And as the ship turns into the glacier, the water is like glass. You can see the reflections off the sides. And of course, that's a good idea. Never climb over anything. But as you start to come up, you can see waterfalls coming out of the mist and larger chunks of ice in the water. And like I say, it was getting crowded at the front. Everybody's clamoring for the best pictures of their life. And that waterfall coming out of the clouds, this is it. Now, I can't see where it started and where the clouds started. All you can see is the water pouring over the edge of the mountain. And at one point, it made even a little rainbow right at the bottom. And as if it was all rehearsed, the closer we got to the glacier, the clouds started to lift. We can see this is where the waterfall came from, off of a little bitty channel right over the top and down into the fjords. And as the glacier begins coming into view, I think every cell phone and camera went into the air to get the pictures. Everybody was taking photos of this as it emerged, and it was a pretty sight. And as the glacier came into full view, our cruise director, Ed, was telling us how lucky we were about the clouds. If it were a bright sunny day, all we would see is white. But it wasn't. It was overcast. So by this, the glacier shows off its true blue colors. The blue comes from all air being squeezed out of the ice. The only sunlight that can penetrate this is blue light. So whenever that you look at a glacier, the true colors of it is blue. That's the only color that can escape the glacier. One thing you can't get from a picture is the depth. If you look at the front of this glacier, it's probably a half mile to 3/4 of a mile from us. But to the peaks of the mountains in the back, you probably got 7 to 10 miles back there. It was an awesome sight and a huge amount of ice stacked up on top of each other. And the captain brought the ship as far as he could up to the glacier and then turned the ship 360 degrees. That way all sides of the ship could see the glacier at some point. He just did donuts in the water. The water was so still here, it seems like the icebergs bobbing were the only ripples across the water. If you look, you see the reflection of the land. It made it look like the water was changing colors, but all it was a reflection. Along the sides you could see small trees, little waterfalls. Still couldn't catch that pesky seal plague, but he was over there splashing around in the water also. And as I turn around to get one more shot of the glacier, you can see the reflection off the water of the blue. There's no wind at all in this. We're surrounded by ice on one side and mountains all the way around on the other sides. So not a bit of wind. This was an awesome place. And we thought it would be the highlight of the trip. But wait until you see what comes in the days ahead. As we leave the Brujo Glacier, I go up top to show you what a still pool looks like. This is the first time the water's been perfectly still. And this is a calm pool. So we just left the glacier. Not a ripple in the pool. Hopefully we'll see some penguins before long besides those.
Not saying that it wasn't beautiful, but I'm just saying it's there's no comparison. Anyway, we are going to be talking about our final port of call before Antarctica. And before I say anything, I will recommend this. Even if you don't go out to an excursion, even if you don't want to go out too far, I do recommend you get off the ship. Because then it's going to be like about 10 or so days before you step on land again. Alright? And hee ha ha right now, but if you're not used to it, that can sort of creep up on you. Alright? So just be very aware that land is a thing, so please go out, do a little bit of fun, and then come back, because this will be your home for almost 2 weeks, okay? Of like not getting off. So, anyway, after tomorrow, we are sort of almost done with Chile. Like I mentioned, we're going to dip out of Chile very quickly, go to Argentina, and then come back down for Cape Horn before we go to Antarctica. But tomorrow will be our last Chilean port. So Ushuaia represents our first port in Argentina. And here we are, all right? It is sandwiched between the Beagle Channel and the Marshall Glacier, right almost at the very end of Patagonia, of the Andes Mountains. So right over there at the very, very tip. Ushuaia, very much like Punta Arenas, was a very wealthy place, very massive industry when it came to coal and shipping. Of course, until 1914, suffered the same fate. Who are you waving to? Oh, there you go. Sorry, I have a microphone trying to help. Anyway, until the Panama Canal opened, sheep saved this area as well. So, yay to the sheep. 60 meters higher, or almost 23,000 feet in height. And the lowest point is called Laguna del Carbon, or Carbon Lake. It's a saltwater lake, and it sits at 105 meters, or almost 350 feet below sea level. And of course, it all lives, bless you, in the southern region of the Patagonia. Now, Argentina means-ish the land of silver. Argentina comes from the Latin word argentum, which does mean itself silver. So technically, if we stretch that out, it's the land of silver. It was named as such because the native cultures, especially around Rio de la Plata, the Buenos Aires, Uruguay, Montevideo area, gifted the explorers, the Portuguese and the Spanish, silver when they first arrived. Gonna leave that story there. Ushuaia is the southernmost city in the world. Port Williams, which is a little bit further south, is by all technicalities the smallest town and the smallest place where people live. There are some people in Cape Horn, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself on that one because it's only 4 of them and 1 cat. But we'll talk about that in a couple days. But Ushuaia is considered a city. Port Williams is considered a town. And so Ushuaia has taken very much its whole end of the world city, which sounds a lot.
And people wonder how we get exercise on this ship. Well, we walk. 3 laps around the ship is 1 mile. So you think of your regular football track, it takes 4 laps. So the ship is larger than a football field. So 3 laps is 1 mile, and we just did 3 laps. And we may do it a couple of times a day, help us keep off the weight. But it's easy to walk whenever that you have the scenery behind you. Sometimes we spot whales or dolphins or anything you could think of. So as you're walking, you're looking at the scenery and looking at the water, seeing what you can see. So long for now. Bye. So this is the wreck of the Sant'Angelo, a U.S. warship. We'll have to look it up whenever we get home and put a little more facts about it. But that's the U.S. warship. After doing a little more digging into this ship, she was actually called the Santa Lenore, but she had been sold by the U.S. government several times, renamed several times, but this is her final resting place. She sank here in 1968, so before I was born, this ship has been sitting here. And if you look at this picture, it's the exact same picture as I found on Wikipedia. So that's where my information came from. And it's the exact same picture. And today's employee of the day is Segar. He's from the jewelry store, the Effie Jewelry Store. And after being on the ship for 22 days, you meet everybody. But every day, he was sitting there smiling, ready to sell some jewelry. And after another round of walking, it's time for dinner. And today's dinner was pretty good. Make your selections and see if it's the same as ours. I took pictures of everything tonight that we had. I had the salmon, and Cheryl, she had the pork chop, so the other white meat. For the dessert, I had the raspberry mousse torte, and Cheryl, she had the strawberry tart. Tonight's entertainer, Eric Steele, a guitar player, one-man band.
You're riding a train that's taking the long way. You can take that, it's fine. I'll dream of the things that I'll do with a subway token and $1 stuffed in my shoes. Now I went to see him just today, but I didn't see no tears. He was all dressed up to go away. First time I've seen him smile in years. He stopped loving her today. They placed a wreath upon his stone. Soon they'll carry, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Here we go! Sweet Caroline, good times will never seem so good. Sweet Caroline, who believed it so now.
And it's just not a cruise without hearing Sweet Caroline a couple times. And we heard it a couple. If you liked tonight's video, hit the like and subscribe button. And stick around because we have more ports and more scenery coming up. Thanks for watching.